Hello and welcome to Overdose and Chill Live. This is episode 69 with my guest Killian Kaminski from Refurbed. Just for you to know, we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Feel free to leave any comments. We will answer them within the broadcast or we will get back to you later on. Kilian, it's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephan. It's also a pleasure to be here today and speak with you about Refurbed and probably a lot of other topics. So great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure of mine. Well, Refurbed is one of the e-commerce brands that came from Europe and is now spreading due to a global trend. But for our international listeners and audience, could you just, in a short sentence, frame what is Reverb doing and what is your USP in the e-commerce industry?
Sure, happy to do so. So we as Reverb, we want to change the way how we as a society consume. When we look in the actual situation, the consumption of us as a society causes a lot of problems, especially also on climate change, how the nature is destroyed because of that. And we want to change it in a way that we want to provide an opportunity for us as a society and for the consumers to buy products sustainable. Originally, we came from electronics, so refurbished products, which means that these products were used in the past, but then completely refurbished in a way that at the end of the process, they look like new and function like new, but they are with a discounted price and they are much more sustainable because they haven't been newly produced. Mm-hmm. But now we also launched in the autumn last year, refurbed fashion to also enter a new product category, which is one of the biggest contributors to climate distortion, which is textiles. And this is a bit of the direction which we are going because we already are a big player in the market of refurbished electronic and therefore sustainable consumption for electronics, but we also want to enter new markets and new areas which have a big impact on the sustainability, and we want to give options for the consumers to think how we can change the way we consume in the future.
That's super interesting, especially as you mentioned, you started with consumer electronics, especially. I think smartphones and laptops is the one thing everyone is thinking about if you're talking about refurbished products. Apple was one of the first movers here in that topic. What was the start for you to jump as a startup into this industry where a lot of the big players are working on it? And from my personal opinion, I don't think a lot of the big players really market their services that they are offering refurb products.
I think in general, it's really interesting also for myself. I mean, we started Reverb literally 5 years ago in 20 days. So we're really close to our 5th anniversary birthday. But in general, refurbishment already exists since more than 15 years. It's originally from the PC and IT industry, but it always was more like a niche product, which was not really well known in, let's say, in the general society. So for us, it was a chance of bringing this product selection, this condition, which is between used and new, but probably really close to new compared to general use products, top of mind of the people. And this is also, I think, the biggest change or the biggest difference which we have compared to the big, let's say, manufacturers themselves or brands, or even other, let's say, big e-commerce players like Amazon or eBay, because their business model completely built on selling new products. So they make the whole profit and operations and the whole complex of processes is based to sell as much new products as you can, and at the same time also motivating customer to exchange the devices as often as they can, so they make more money. That is also why the life cycle of the product is, of course, tried to be relatively small. It also means that they launch new models every year so that the consumer is motivated to replace the device on a regular basis. And because of this, from the economic perspective, for them, it makes only sense to sell new products. If they would increase the market for refurbished, they would automatically cannibalize their new sales. And that is what they don't want to do. And exactly in this is our opportunity where we're jumping in, because we want to explain the customers what the benefits of refurbished products are. And for this reason, open up this previous really niche area to a much wider audience, explain what we are doing. And the outcome is, at least from our experience in the last 5 years, that when customers understand what it is, what refurbished products are, for example, in the electronics sector, they love them because they realize they can save money, they can buy something sustainable and doing their part for a more sustainable future.
I think that's one of the most critical impacts that you're doing. And as we see with the success of Refurbed, the clients really love your service. You started in Austria and Germany, and I think it's now all around Europe. So how did this expansion work? What were your first steps? What were the learnings you did from this expansion?
Yeah, so for us, it was in the beginning clear that we do not want to build, let's say, a marketplace or a company which is only based in one country. From the beginning on, so like when we started our first MVP website, so literally the first really easy version of a SaaS product website, which we rented kind of and designed in a really limited space. It was pretty ugly, I would say, and really limited from the process that we could use on the website. But it allowed us to start selling our products already after 1 month. So I think compared to other companies in the e-commerce industry, especially when we're talking about marketplaces, we literally started extremely fast with the first sales to generate customer experience, customer feedback, and getting an understanding what they really want, where we should focus on, and what we should improve in the beginning. And when we started our platform the first time and launched it, we directly launched in Germany and Austria, which was relatively simple because both have the same language. So of course it makes it much easier to launch in 2 countries which have a similar language. But also some of the learnings which we generated over the time was that the products that we are selling are normally from our partners shipped across Europe. So for our partners, it doesn't really matter in which country we are active. They would be able to ship it. So for us, it's the main, I would say, task is more about translating the website in the local language. At the same time, of course, considering which adjustments we have to do on the branding side, because maybe in different regional areas of Europe, there are different focuses. For example, some countries are much more sustainable focused, other countries are maybe more price driven. So for this reason, of course, our branding, our messaging and marketing on all channels has to be adjusted depending on the individual culture of the country, but also in general on, let's say, the mindset of the people there. And this is how we kind of tackled after we launched Germany and Austria at the same time. 2 years later, we launched Italy as a first international country, which is still our 3rd biggest one, but already followed up with a lot of other countries which are really strongly growing. And I would say if I review back that we kind of created this expansion playbook, which we always, of course, improved from each expansion of new country we had. And it's really interesting to see that if we're now launching new countries, we're reaching specific milestone, let's say 1 million GMV or something for a specific country, much faster than we did previously, because all of the learnings we generated through the other expansion and launches of new countries in the past.
Okay, so very interesting. You as a service company for clients who really want to go into refurb product, I think it's, from my perspective, it's essential that you are the brand a client is ordering from. Well, of course, you have partners who are shipping the good, who are responsible for the logistics. But if something went wrong in the order process, it's you as Refurbed where the client is writing to and gets in contact to. What's your take on having access to this essential customer data, to this excellent role of customer service? How did you build that up in your ecosystem?
I mean, for a marketplace, the most important factor, as you pointed out, is to provide the best possible service. And of course, as a marketplace, as you do not ship products yourself, you're not really in charge of the daily operations, at least from a logistic point of view, for example. You rely on a high quality partner network that you're working with. And so for us, one of the most important topics is, of course, finding the right partners and verifying them really strictly. So I would say we have a really high bar of partners we want to work with, which kind of requirements they have to achieve. So that means that on a weekly or daily base, different partners applying for selling their product through us. But if they, for example, are too small or the quality level is not high enough to reach our standards, we will not allow them to sell their products on our site. And this is
may I
kind of,
just ask, what
sorry.
are the KPIs you're measuring the quality or the service standards?
Yeah. So I mean, in general, of course, it's like, let's say, pre-sales. So before they start selling, we check something like, company size, what kind of softwares they're using for data deletion, how many steps they're doing for refurbishing the device, what kind of processes they have, which technical expertise their employees have. Before Corona, we also did like company visits to see how the site looks like. But in the end of the day, I think the most valuable feedback and analysis that you can do is if they start selling, and this is customer feedback. Because if something doesn't work well, customers will always, reach out and let us know. So of course, then having analysis about, like, let's say, return rate, defect rate, complaint rate will always show us a picture about like which are, let's say, the best partners and which are the mid-level partners or whatever it is. But as you pointed out, exactly for being then the one who is able to achieve the customer feedback, we of course built up a structure that we created our own internal customer communication ticketing system. So we do not use any external software. We developed it ourselves so that all of the communication between the customer and, for example, also our partners running through our system, and we have a view on it to ensure that whenever something is not working well, we are able to jump in and support our customers and providing them the best possible service. And for this reason, we also build up our customer service team internally completely to ensure that we are able to set the standards for customer service ourselves and advise our customers in the best possible way.
Okay. Yeah, that's also what I experienced. Well, I think my first order via Refurbed was 4 years ago, so quite soon after you launched. And interestingly, like always, when you order first at a new service company, something went wrong. I think that the order time was, 3 or 4 weeks, and it was then quite complicated to get in touch with the merchant. But now I've ordered throughout the last year several times with you, and it really improved a lot with all the communication matters. So you can really see how your company improved on customer experience level, what details you figured out, and how obsessed with those details you are. And I think that's what a really good startup is benefiting a lot, and that's also seen in your success and your internationalization. Definitely.
I mean, we also, we have one of our company values is experiment and learn. And for us, it's really important to, try out different things, try out different approaches to learn how we can improve, how we can be better, even in a, let's say, a per mil base. Because if we have a lot of experience running and we're always improving on a per mil base, the overall impact will be massive. And that also means that that was one of the reasons why we also launched our first MVP version after 1 month after we started, which, as I mentioned, right, was not looking great, no nice design, no great processes, but it allowed us to get our first sales. And then, like my co-founder Peter and myself, after we worked the whole day, in the evening, we took our phones out and called each individual customer and asked them how they found us, what was their experience, what we can improve. And this is kind of a bit what you also pointed out, right? Of course, from time to time, then mistakes happened, like maybe your example in the beginning, but we literally used each individual improvement point to think about how we can adjust the processes in a way to make the customer experience better. And I think it's not, I don't even think it's comparable anymore how our processes and website looked like 4 years ago compared to now. But in the end of the day, the development that we took was always based on the way that we always try to experiment and learn from it and then improve what we're doing to be successful in the future.
Okay, awesome. Well, Refurbed is a success story. We definitely notice not only that your service is improved, you are a known brand already, but you are considered as one of the unicorns that grew up or that came up from Austria. How did you manage this growth in your company? How is your approach, especially currently, on hiring the right people for the company? What's your task here on the managing the company's growth?
Yeah. So, we're not a unicorn yet. And just to point this out, for us, it's not really about being a unicorn or not. How we see it is more is the great thing about our business model that we're having is as bigger as we're growing as a company, as bigger the impact from us on the earth, on the planet, on the sustainability will be. And this is, I think, the interesting part, because a lot of different other business models, they normally work contradictory to it. So that means that if they make more revenue, are more successful, they kind of harm the environment or the social side or whatever it is more. And I think this is what motivates us to grow further, to expand to new countries, to delivering our option to more people, because then our impact will be even bigger, and our impact on, let's say, the hopefully reduction of climate change will be even bigger. And for reaching exactly this growth as a company, what we want to do and what we have to do is to find the right people. And I think this is also one of our biggest challenges, I guess, because of course there are a lot of opportunities right now in the market. I think it's right now more a candidates market than a company market in this regard regarding hiring. But for us, it's also important to not only finding the best people from expertise level, but also finding the right people fitting our company from the value perspective, from also the vision that we're having, and also the mindset that they want to change the world. So we probably would never hire a person like Donald Trump, which thinks that climate change is a hoax, because we are convinced that the people needs to follow our team needs to follow the same mission that we're having. But on the other hand, what I think is really positive is that a lot of people, I think we think now for which company they want to work, and more people thinking about that they want to work for a company which has a purpose, which changes the way we as a society live, consume, or whatever it is in this regard, and doing a positive contribution with their working time, which allows us to hire extremely great talents, and for this reason also get much more expertise in our company. And what we now changed a bit is over the last couple of months, is that we also now opening us as a company up more to like a remote first setup, in the regard that we're not only hiring people anymore just in Vienna or kind of asking people to relocate to Vienna, but allowing us to hire also people across Europe, so that we want to literally find the best people across Europe, and then have more the requirement than on a regular base, let's say at least once a quarter, everyone will be joining or will be going to Vienna to meet in person, because we learned that remote works. We learned that video conferences, video chats, everything of this works, but it cannot really replace the possibility to meet someone in person, to meet the person behind the screen, kind of, and the private person. And this, I think, is also something really important for us as a company. And we want to find a great balance between both ways in the future.
That's absolutely good approach. We see that as our Overdose by ourselves in Europe, we are remote first or remote only currently, but it's essential that people catch up on the personal meetings, have a chat, drink some beer together, and just do this socializing on a personal level. I think that's essential also for a company to grow and to keep the movement and keep the spirit high. That's definitely essential. Coming back to what you mentioned in the beginning, that you're offering now additional services like fashion. And we all know the fashion industry is quite a complicated one, especially in e-commerce. There are a lot of returns. A lot of companies do destroy their returns because they don't know how to deal with all the clothing. What's your take on that? How is your approach on get those clothing refurbed? What's on what special occasions do you have an eye on in this process?
I mean, for sure, the fashion industry is. I mean, I think it's kind of comparable to the electronic industry. If you see the landfill sites in Africa for electronics, but also then the landfill sites, for example, in Chile with the Atacama Desert, where the fashion items are dropped there, it's just horrible. And I think it's not even imaginable how horrible that is. That we with our habit of consuming, let's say, fast fashion, right, and going to all the seasons of buying new clothes are the main contributor for this issue that we're having here. And this is more, I would say, like how we think about it. What we want to do is we're not working with, let's say, the biggest brands together. What we see as a much higher value for us and what we can contribute is that we want to work together with like the small brands, the small sustainable brands, which focusing on specific purposes. They produce in Europe. They think about like which material they can use. Could be, for example, recycled plastic bottles, which then are used to make a sports T-shirt or something like this. So also innovative approaches in the future to think about how in fashion we can be more sustainable. And I think this is something what we want to do in the future to allow our customers, which for sure on a larger scale are much more sustainable than customers of other brands, of other marketplaces, let's say it like this, which are much more conscious about what sustainability means for them if they need 20 jeans or 100 t-shirts, or if they much more can consider in the future how much I really need. And I think this is an approach which we already did or had in mind as a bit of a vision before we even thought about like moving to different categories. I think 2 years ago, we had a pop-up store in summer in Berlin, which called kind of "Brauchst du das wirklich?" So in English, it would be like, "Do you need this? Do you really need this?" kind of. And where we already displayed different items next to electronics. So could be clothes like jeans or t-shirts, but also food like an avocado or so, like how negative the impact of this individual product is on the environment. And do we really need a lot of these things, or can we think a bit more, let's say, minimalistic and use the things that we really need and not just buying to buy, but think about our buying decisions in the future much more.
Okay. Do you see yourself or your brand somehow in a position to also educate people on that topic? Because especially for younger people, I think it's normal to really think about the environment, to rethink the own buying perspective. But for some generations, it's I just like you mentioned, Mr. Trump in that age. They just buy without really considering, is it sustainable? Is my habit having any negative effects on the environment? So do you see that there needs to be done more education, more information on what's going on behind the scenes at brands?
For sure, I think one of the biggest problems which we have right now is, I mean, also reflecting a bit to Trump, is the whole topic of fake news, right? There's so much topic going on in around the world, and also I think one of the problems is greenwashing, right? For example, everyone now claims to be sustainable, even if they are not, and there's so much information in the market that it's different to get an understanding, who's really telling the truth and who's not. So this for sure is a big problem. Regarding the different generations, for sure, I think the younger generation literally grows up. I mean, Fridays for Future kind of as this image of the new generation, which is now focused on sustainability. For sure, they have it much more top of mind than older generations. But when we look at our customer groups, for example, which are purchasing products on our site, it's not the case. It's not the case that it's only young people. We literally have from all generations, from the student, from the younger generation, to the families, to the grandparents, which buying products on our site, and especially families. I think they also changed strongly over the last couple of years towards a more sustainable thinking, because they much more understand now, or thinking about like how I want to leave this world or this planet behind for the next generation, which would be their kids, which already are on this planet, maybe if it's a family. And for this reason, they also reconsider how they consume. And this is, I think, a really interesting approach, which probably still is driven from the younger generation, but it's now much more accepted and understood from the older generation that their impact will, in the end of the day, have a much stronger impact on the younger generations in 20, 30, 40, 50 years than for themselves, depending on, of course, the life expectancy for them. And I think this is a great step, but for sure, education, there cannot be enough education in this regard and enough transparency to ensure that everyone in the society understands it. And there wouldn't be any Trump anymore. That would be the perfect world, even if it's probably like a wish and not like the reality.
Okay. One thing, you as a company, you're now getting 5 years old. You've grown from the founders team to, I think, 100, 120 people. Is it currently about correct? The number?
Yeah, we're 170 and like 20 starting next Tuesday. So
okay,
we're close to 200 now.
Okay, close to 200. Wow, I can keep track with these numbers. how did the culture in the company change within this last 5 years, and how did your daily tasks as a founder change? You have a really big team now. You have lots of people who rely on you and your founders. How does your daily life look like?
I mean, I would say we rely on much more people than they rely on us. But in general, I mean, of course, my daily timeline changed massively. As I mentioned before, in the beginning, Peter and I, we called customers in the evening. We onboarded partners. We discussed with like payment providers how we can do it, because Refurbed was us three founders together with Jürgen, our CTO. So we did everything. And I think with the growth of the company, you cannot do everything anymore. And you have to find the right people which are better than you in the specific task. And for this reason, you hand over them the responsibility for their individual fields. And I think what we, as a founder team, did really great was that we were not like, afraid of hiring better people than us for specific areas, but we were really totally supportive of letting go and more kind of adding as a brainstorming partner, as a partner on their side to support them in whatever they need, but give them the responsibility, the ownership, but especially also the trust that they will do the job most likely much better than we could. And this, I think, is also a part of the culture that we're having. So, of course, I mean, what changed is when we started, we were in one room. Then we had 3 rooms, and now we have an office space of 1,800 square meters right now here in Vienna, which automatically means that it's not as easy to kind of like speak over the desk to the kind of the whole team and tell them something or ask them something. So now you have to like walk a bit around and do your sports on daily walking in the office. But it's still really important for us, I think, to have this culture of being one team. Also, one of our values is community, to stick together. We are all in the same boat. We all have this wish and this mission and this vision to change the world for good and doing our part in this regard. And I think everyone understands this, and this is really valued in the company, that it's not the case that we founders are, let's say, out of this world and no one can talk to us. It's not at all the case. So we always have lunch with the rest together, and we always try to be, or like also to tell them that the success of the company is not based on us. It's based on 200 people in this company, and all of them have the individual part of the success of the business. And this is how we live our culture and how we are at Refurbed.
That's amazing, and I think that's essential. It's the basis of your success that we see throughout the last years. One of the last questions I have for you is, what are the goals of Refurb thinking about the next 12 to 24 months? What are you trying to achieve? What are the next steps you're going to take?
We want for sure like launching some new countries. Some of them will be launched also in the first half of this year, to also offering our products, our offerings to other people across Europe. Of course, we want to expand our product selection, going into new product categories. So, for example, like TVs, e-bikes, mobility products in the future, but also further extend our other categories, like we did with fashion now. It's still kind of a new area in our company. So, of course, there we also want to add much more new products in the future to ensure that the customer can kind of whatever they want to buy in fashion, they can buy it at Refurbed in a sustainable way. But also, I think one really important factor is in the future to think about like how we can make the customer experience even better. And this is something which we're working on a daily basis. As I mentioned in the beginning, regarding doing experiments and learn from it. We're doing like 40, 50 experiments kind of at the same time on our website to ensure that we improve whatever the customer wants on a daily basis. And this is, in the end of the day, what we want to do. We want to make it as easy and as convenient for the customer to buy products, to consume, and also to get an understanding what we are doing. So the educational part that we talked about. And I think this will be our big focus. And for this, of course, we need the right people. And so hiring will always be one of the top priorities for us. And our to-do list is much longer than our capacity to work on it. So we hopefully will find a lot of great new people over the next 12 to 24 months, which are willing to join us in our mission and journey to change the world for good.
Sounds absolutely amazing. Kilian, thank you so much for your time talking to me here in the Overdose and Chill session. I think if someone of the listeners or the audience would like to connect, LinkedIn would be the best way.
Sure, yeah, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Killian Kaminski. You hopefully will find me. Reach out and happy to connect.
Thank you so much. Dear audience, I hope you liked our session here. I think it was very enlightening, and thank you for being with us. If you have any further questions, just reach out to Isabel and me, and we'll be back to you anytime. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for having me.